I was out partying, drinking, festivals, raves, all those sorts of things. And then everything really changed when I got into an abusive relationship with my ex, and the abuse got worse, and it tends to always get worse for women at that stage when they fall pregnant or when they try to leave the relationship. And I just remember calling my dad in tears one day, and I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't drinking, like I wasn't doing anything. I was just a shell of a person. Everything was just taken away.
Don't just talk it, walk it. Walk it only.
We're on.
Talk it, walk it. Don't just talk it, walk it. Walk it only. Don't just talk it, walk it. Walk it only.
Laura, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Good, nice little trip up today for you.
It was easy, to be fair, just 4 hours straight on one train, 20 minutes or 15 minutes on the next. And
Nice.
I worked the whole way up, so productive.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Do you like a little bit of a travel now and then?
Do you know what? It's funny. When I was in the train station, I was thinking, I'm such a loner. I never go out. I never see people. I never do anything. And I was walking around and I was thinking, oh, I wonder what everyone's story is. I was just looking at people, you know, some people looked like they were happy and sad, or they, you know, had children with them. And I was thinking, like, what happened to you today? Like, why do you look sad today? Or what are you celebrating?
Like people watching?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a people
But
watcher.
I'm such an empath that I take on their energy. So then I was like, oh, this person looks really sad. And then I just felt really sad. And I was like, oh, I want to go give them a hug.
It's tough, that, isn't it? That we were talking about before, energy and stuff like that. If you're that type of way in yourself that you feel everyone's energy, you gotta be mindful of how that goes as well. Then, aren't you? Well, we'll talk about journeys, because you've been on a bit of a journey yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you were just saying earlier, you know, you've been in the industry now of online coach, working in particularly with women. But there's so much more about you than just that. I feel like your journey is something that you've very much hardwired into your brand as such.
Yeah.
So for yourself, how could you break that down? Where did it all stem from you in this journey?
Oh, that's such a good question, and one that sometimes I find difficult to answer because I feel like there's so many pieces to it. But I guess childhood wasn't the easiest. I didn't have the best childhood. So growing up, there was always things that I really struggled with. Like I was severely anxious, and I had no idea that I had anxiety until I was about 25, 26. And they were like, yeah, you have anxiety. And I was like, no, I don't. I just worry.
Yes, yeah.
So there was all of these things that were so normal to me, which then meant I was in loads of unhealthy relationships. I was constantly chasing highs. So, you know, from my early teens to my mid-20s was quite a wild time of life for me, where I was out partying, drinking, festivals, raves, all those sorts of things. And then everything really changed when I got into an abusive relationship with my ex. Obviously didn't realise it at the time. But I fell pregnant, and then we was keeping the baby. We were so happy. I desperately wanted this child. I had endometriosis at the time. I thought I had PCOS. So falling pregnant for me was like, this is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And then he changed his mind. He didn't want the baby anymore, and he didn't want me. And the abuse got worse, and it tends to always get worse for women at that stage when they fall pregnant or when they try to leave the relationship. And I just remember calling my dad in tears one day, and I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't drinking, like I wasn't doing anything. I was just a shell of a person. And my dad was like, Laura, get in your car and come to Wales.
Wow.
So my friend come over, she packed my car up with just clothes full of bin bags, whichever could fit in my car at the time. And I drove to Wales, and that was all the belongings that I had. Everything else got left behind. And I went back and forth a long time, was in a lot of therapy, was in and out the doctors, was in and out the psych ward because my mental health declined so bad. And I actually decided to not go ahead with the pregnancy in the end. Although I was cornered into that decision, I still decided that I think that would have been the best thing at the time, because I had nowhere to live. I had no job. My job was back in Hertfordshire, 200 miles away. So no income, no home. I couldn't afford to pay my car on finance. I couldn't look after myself. I was in the worst depression ever. I was suicidal.
Wow.
And I thought, this isn't how I want my child to be brought into the world. And I don't know how I'm going to even care for a child when I can't even care for myself. So I did make the decision to go ahead with the termination. And that was really the catalyst for everything. That's when I started healing. That's when I got into a lot of intense therapy, started looking at myself. And my identity like shattered then. I didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't know what hobbies I liked. I didn't know how I liked to dress. I didn't know anything. Everything that I knew was taken away from me. My friends, my family that were local to me there, my job, my gym, you know, my social groups.
Yeah.
Everything was just taken away, suddenly having nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, fuck.
It's a lot. What age were you then?
So this is going back about 4 or 5 years now. So I think I was about 26 at the time.
26. It's a lot going on in one area. Then it's even for me to try and indulge all of that. Like, obviously you've gone from an outward looking to inward looking. You flipped the script when obviously the termination of the child. And how do I say that then? Obviously abusive relationships, and I'm fortunate I haven't been in one, but from a woman's perspective, it's probably a lot different to a male's perspective. And is it that feeling of feeling trapped?
Yeah, I mean, it was like a whirlwind romance, and I take responsibility for my own part in this because I had no self-love, I had no self-worth, I didn't respect myself, which is why I ultimately ended up in a relationship like that. And this isn't to put blame onto anyone that is in those situations, but again, I think it's so empowering when we can actually realise and go, actually, I love myself now. I know what I'm worth. I know how to respect myself, my boundaries. I understand what's okay and what's not okay. So I'm never going to be in that situation again because I'm not that person that I was then. So I'm not putting blame on me then, but there's definitely accountability and responsibility that I've taken for myself since. But yeah, it all goes so quick. Like, it's a whirlwind. He told me he loved me straight away, moved me in his house, gave me a key.
Red flag.
Yeah. You know, but at the time, I didn't know what love was.
Because you said you were chasing highs as well, right? So that's a massive high.
Yeah, I didn't know what love was. I'd never been loved. I'd never been shown what love was, affection.
Beforehand? Like family?
Again, childhood was complicated. I don't have many memories, to be honest. I can't really remember much below the age of 13. So I can't really go into anything. But what I do know is that, you know, healthy relationships weren't modeled to me.
Cool.
My mum's from a Muslim country. So, you know, her upbringing is different. My mum is Turkish. My dad is Welsh. So I often get asked a lot, like, why have I never seen like this Disney movie or certain things like that? And it's like, well, because that wasn't the norm in a Muslim culture. So those things weren't pushed onto me. And I get this so often. And I felt awful about myself for a while, thinking like, why haven't I watched some of these childhood movies everyone's watched? And it's only recently that I realised, I was like, my mum didn't fucking know. She was fucking Turkish.
Yeah, it wasn't the norm for her, so why would she pass it on?
Why would she watch some of the movies that we watch here in the UK and tell me to watch them? Like, yeah. That's
interesting, that. Obviously it's interesting, and having that feeling of 13 onwards, kind of having a bit of an awareness time then. Like, one thing I'm always curious about when you talk about, you know, this situation with this fella, has it ever been a time of like getting clarity or closure towards this situation?
Yeah. So I actually have nothing but love and empathy towards him.
Cool.
And I wish him, honestly, like all of the best for himself. And it's taken me a long time to be able to get to this point. But I can see that he had a whole load of trauma that he hadn't dealt with. And he was an addict. So he was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. But when we got together, I was on the rave scene. I was on the party scene.
So you were kind of...
Yeah, I was an enabler without realising it. So we done those things together. But as the relationship went on, it gradually got worse and worse and worse and more frequent and was causing a lot of arguments between us. So he was in a whole world of pain on his, you know, himself. And even like, I think if someone's a narcissist or whatever, the worst people in the world, I still think that they're just people that haven't dealt with their trauma, and that's the only way they know how to manage and to survive. So I'm not trying to, defend him, but I can understand why he was the way he is, and I actually feel a lot of pain for him. And he's actually in prison now, so that's quite sad, but hopefully it's the best place for him to be.
You never know in those situations. Time in solitude kind of makes you sit with yourself more. I've never been to prison, but I mean, time in solitude normally helps sit with yourself and address those things instead of just masking it with the rave, with partying, with drugs, with alcohol. But it takes big balls from you as well to be able to, hope for the best for that person, because I think the key element in a lot of things is like kind of looking in third person, or kind of seeing not your emotions or feeling your emotions. You're actually listening to what they're saying, or your awareness to the situation is like, this is he might have only been programmed this way. Yeah. Like, as in, like, this is what he's seen. Yeah. So he knows no different. Yeah. But that takes a lot of time to get to that stage, to recognize that and be aware of that. But hell of a journey from you, though, Law.
I know. When I look back and I think it's only been, 4 years? It doesn't feel like a long time. Because it's not really a long time at all. But if anything, it just really excites me, and was why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I know the place that I was at and I know where I'm at now. And I'm not a therapist, but I work so closely with my therapist still. I have done for 4 years now. We have a great relationship. I invest a lot into my own development, into learning about myself, go into courses, go into groups, meditation, all of this inward reflecting, and everything that I teach my clients is what I know works and helps, and it's not about that quick fix. It's,
not at all.
It's the long game, and we're both so aligned, in the looking inward, the mindfulness, the meditation, the reflection.
It's amazing. It's amazing to hear that, and that's another thing. Even with clients, I'm always like, if someone says, "Oh, I just want a one-off session," like, nah, go someone else then, because you're not getting validation. You need at least minimum 3 months to even let the seed plant in you and recognize this. But it's interesting you say that. But that's maybe why you're probably the perfect candidate to do what you're doing, Law, because you've experienced something that's very traumatic, and then now you're comfortable enough to be like, hey, I'm gonna talk about myself and be okay with that, to make you okay with you.
Yeah. And you know what I find so interesting as well is, before I publicly spoke about going through the termination and everything, once that if anyone listens to my first 2 podcasts on my channel, it's basically me just like crying my eyes out, like a heartfelt podcast. I was like, I need to just get this off my chest. This is my story. Cool. This is my journey. So I feel really embarrassed now thinking about it. But hey, it's in the moment, and it's real, and it's authentic. And off the back of those 2 episodes, I had so many messages from my clients and people that aren't my clients who have been through the exact same experience. And around 25% of my clients had been through the same experience, yet we never spoke about it, and we were drawn to each other. And I just find that so fascinating.
Yeah. That's powerful, that is.
Yeah.
It makes you realize then, they were like, well, whoa, we've got areas now that we can delve into even more and connect and understand and break those barriers within ourselves. But even with that now, though, you seem to never stop. Like, this weekend, you just come from a retreat.
Yeah.
How was that?
Amazing and uncomfortable and challenging and draining all at the same time.
I was just about to say that whenever you do something like this right away, you look within and you're willing to break a few boundaries of yourself or barriers of yourself, you tend to start to feel exhausted. Yeah. It's like a moment of exhaustion because you've done a lot of work. And then after that, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm back now. I'm back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that. Yeah, you gotta socially check out for a bit.
Yes, definitely. And I just get so drained so easily as well. I'm a massive introvert, a massive loner. I spend all of my time on my own. But yeah, the weekend, normally I get really anxious before I go away. And this come up and I was like, oh, I haven't been anxious once. Like, I haven't thought about being anxious. This is really good and interesting. And I went with my friend Jamie, and funnily enough, it's actually the first time we met. We met online on Instagram, and we've been doing Zooms and, speaking constantly. And I'm like, we're soul sisters. We're just so like meant to have crossed paths. So we booked to go to this retreat together. First time we met, and yeah, it was just like
amazing.
Yeah, like there was no time between us. We've always known each other. And I actually said, I was like, Jamie, this is really weird. Just stood in my kitchen right now. Like you're actually here.
You're not through a screen anymore.
yeah. So we went there together, and anxiety the first day when I got there, I was like, oh shit, okay, here's the anxiety.
What, from being around so many people, or what to expect?
Yeah, all of it, from being away from home, not having my comforts. And I've been doing a lot of inner healing at the moment. The last month has been pretty draining for me. Lots of things have sort of come up. So to then go and do a retreat whilst I'm dealing with all of that stuff and I'm low on energy as it is, pushed me out of my comfort zone, and the anxiety crept in on the first night. But I was like, Laura, you've done harder things. Yeah. You've done way harder things. You can do this. And I woke up the next day and I was like, I can fucking do this. Yeah.
That's the mindset there, though. I think the mindset, sometimes our ego sometimes wants to comfort us. And knows, hey, we're a bit exhausted, or this is going to be big for us, or the anxiety of what we don't know what's going to happen. They play a massive factor in actually, we are still capable of doing a lot of things. Like, you can break any barrier down if you really wanted to. But I think sometimes I've had, obviously we were originally meant a podcast. I've had some people sometimes that have struggled, like, I'm knackered today, I'm this, that, and the other. But you've had the best, and they've pushed through, and you have like the best podcast or episode, because you're like, it's pure. It's like them not holding on anymore. It's like releasing themselves. And I think you doing this weekend is probably part of that as well. Yeah. And I think there's also like elements of your subconscious mind wanting to keep you quote unquote safe. Because things like that are hard. 100%. Are really hard. And it's like, oh fuck, I got to confront some things about myself that maybe I weren't ready for or weren't expecting. But after the first day, there was like an opening ceremony, there was a women's connection circle, there were other group settings, and you met everyone properly. It was like, nice. I'm safe. Everyone here is lush. They're going to look after me. If I'm not okay, I'm going to be looked after. This is where I need to be, if anything, if I'm not okay. And I used to have, so back 4 years ago, I went through a phase of having pseudo seizures, which looked like epileptic fits. Wow. From anxiety. No way. Yeah, it was where my mental health just depleted and my nervous system couldn't cope with everything that was going on. So I was in and out of A&E. I was having 20 pseudo seizures a time. And sometimes when I do a lot of deep work like this and I do a lot of meditation, my nervous system relaxes. And I'll often twitch, so maybe I might twitch throughout this now. Okay. So if I do anything like this, that's what it is. I can't help it. It's better to let it out than in. But they were coming up this weekend for me when we was doing some shamanic journeys. We were doing some meditation. And the first thing to go is like my hand. Okay. And I used to feel a lot of shame around it. But this weekend, I was like, you know what? This is the place I need to let this happen, because this energy needs to move. Yeah. Being stuck and stagnant inside of me is not going to help me. It's going to probably make me worse. And it was just so beautiful to be able to be exactly as I am in that moment. Wow. And no one to judge me. And if anything, I had so much support. I had people that had experienced similar things, like help me work through it. And the connections that we all built were just so much deeper, because I was not afraid to be like, hey, this is who I am. I'm a little bit fucked up, and it's hard. We're all a bit fucked up. Yeah. I think we're all just trying to be we're never going to be perfect, but we're always trying to become perfect. Yeah. But actually becoming perfect involves you becoming vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And vulnerable makes community. Mm-hmm. And then when you realize that, when you're in these circles, for instance, then you realize, hey, we're all the same. Hey, we're all going through something. Or, hey, we're all trying to better ourselves. But as soon as we got to let the walls down a little bit. And I think vulnerability is a key of true connection. And I actually wrote on the train up here a post about some of my lessons from the weekend. And one of them was like, everyone is dealing with their own shit. Literally everyone. And
being in a space like that this weekend where everyone did just share their shit that they were going through, it was liberating and beautiful because it was like, wow. Like, I feel honoured that these people felt comfortable to share this in my space. I felt honoured that they held space for me. And it's just really humbling, I think. And you said something a second ago, which reminded me of the conversation we just had, setting the cameras up. And I was like, oh, I'm not bothered. I'm easy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was lining the cameras up. Yeah. And you said, oh, I don't mind. Because I thought maybe, some women want a certain angle. They want to look a certain way. But you're like, no, I'm easy. And that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me then. Because I was like, oh, wow. I thought, or maybe you do want everything 100% perfect, bro.
Yeah,
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, fuck it now. Like I said to you beforehand, I've got a talking event coming up next week, and a lot of the speakers dress very glamorous. The host will be very glamorous. And I felt so out of my comfort zone the first time I went to this networking event because I was like, fuck, I don't dress like these. Like, I don't wear makeup. I don't do anything like that. And I decided for my networking event, I'm just going to turn up in my gym kit because when I'm comfortable, I'm confident. Yeah. And this is how I am like 90% of the time.
Yeah, why change it?
Yeah.
Because I've done the same. I did a talking event 2-3 weeks ago, and I was like, do I put a button up on? I haven't put a button up on in ages. Like a wedding, I think the last time I put, but before that I wouldn't put one on. And then I thought, why would I change who I am? Yeah. If these are ever to potentially get to know me more, I ain't going to be like, oh, just let you know, I don't normally wear this fake Rolex or this button. You know what I mean? This is who I am. I wear a Garmin watch, and you'll see me normally in running shoes or something, or like in jeans or something. But it's cool because you got to be more yourself, haven't you? But it's a pretty amazing. I want to ask you as well regarding maybe our listeners will be listening and wondering like, what is inner work? What does that look like to someone? And because when we talk about we're all going through something or we're all battling something. What does that look like to someone then, for instance?
Oh, that's a good question. Not one I've actually thought about before. But for me, inner work is developing self-awareness. Because if we don't have self-awareness, then we can't make change because we're not even open to areas we need to improve on. And I think the biggest thing is the self-awareness of your habits, your behaviors, your thoughts. And if you can really learn to master your thoughts and control your mind, then, and I think you'll probably agree with this as well, that's where all the change will really stem from.
Yeah. 100%.
But the type of inner work that I do is a lot of meditation.
Yeah.
I've found meditation really challenging for a good few years. But it's like in the last year, it's just clicked. I'm like, I get it now. I can meditate. Yeah. So much resistance to begin with. It was so uncomfortable, as it is for most people. And I think you may come across this as well. A lot of people might say, I can't meditate. It's not for me. And what I actually think that is they find it too uncomfortable. It's not that they can't, and it's not that it won't work for them, but it's really uncomfortable to begin with if you have such a busy mind.
100%.
And you have to sit with your feelings. Like, if you're anxious, there's no way of avoiding the anxiety. You've got to literally feel that anxiety in your body and deal with it.
100%. I just see it like a bottle. You fill the bottle up, right, and it's right to the brim, and that's your stress levels. But if that bottle's full and it's right to the brim and you're not like sitting with it or addressing or like just sitting with it, sometimes that pop will happen on like triggers on, you might blow out on your staff member or a friend or a girlfriend or a boyfriend over nothing. But really what it was that you just didn't sit with any of these things in this bottle. But it doesn't have to be crazy things. I think some people think, oh, it's something that happened when I was a kid. Like, no, it's probably the fact that you've got a couple maybe of bills that you haven't sat with all month. And you haven't responded back to your boss. You've got a couple of emails you haven't read. You missed a call of a client in that day. Before you know it, it's like layer. Okay, pop. So I think, and don't get me wrong, the word, when I say the word trauma, like, that is legitimate. We need to like look within us sometimes on that area, and that's no disrespect. I remember saying this to Callum the other day about it. He was talking about trauma, and I said the word trauma for me is like like I used to think it as like child abuse or termination of a child or rape.
Yeah.
That's trauma for me. So I changed the word to just like, not trauma, it's just more like addressing your shit.
Yeah.
Because the word trauma might mean so many different things to someone else. Because some people might listen to this and be like, what else is, I haven't got trauma. It's like, no, it's just addressing your shit.
It is. In a child healing, they call them like little T's. Or it's not even just a little child. In a child healing, they say that, but they're like little T's. So a little T might be an example of when you were growing up, maybe your dad worked all the time. Yeah. So your dad was emotionally unavailable. So you didn't get affection and that emotional connection from your dad. So when you grow up, you will then start to look for emotionally unavailable men subconsciously.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be a big T, a big trauma, but it can be little T's like that happen in childhood. Maybe, maybe your mum was really explosive and your dad was never around.
Yeah.
So that's not that traumatic, but as a child that is growing from, a tiny toddler to developing their brain, I can't remember what book I was reading the other day, but they use the example of, let's say you didn't tidy your bedroom when you was asked to tidy your bedroom as a 6-year-old. And then behind the scenes, mum and dad have been arguing. They're going towards a breakup. You've got no idea because you're a 6-year-old child.
Of course, yeah.
Then one day dad doesn't come home on the day that you don't clean your bedroom and tidy your bedroom. As a child, you internalize that as, I didn't tidy my bedroom, my dad doesn't love me, he left me. And this is like where all of these subconscious imprints happen.
And they take that into adult life.
Yeah. And then that's how we can become people pleasers and neglect our own needs, because then we think, oh, well, I have to do this thing, otherwise my parents aren't going to love me.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, we start to have to think about friends that we go to school with, our teachers, our work colleagues, our romantic partners, our social groups. So then you can start to mimic those people-pleasing tendencies in all of those relationships. And that doesn't mean you had the most traumatic childhood, but it can have a significant impact
100%.
if you don't address your shit.
100%, got to address your shit.
Yeah.
When you said that then, I was thinking about, I used to be a bad people pleaser. And hey, I still notice the little trait now and then, but then you go, oh, okay, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Or I remember stages where I go, I want to help everyone. Yeah. So you're willing to put them ahead of you. But then if you don't become aware of those situations, like going, oh, hang on, I'm doing that again. Yeah. That's all it is. I'm doing that again. And then you go, okay, I need to change that now. Yeah. Like you're aware of it. It's awareness to everything. Like I think if you're not aware, you're a prisoner to your own thoughts, you're a prisoner to your own beliefs. So that for me is awareness. So I like, for instance, I remember mum and dad growing up. Mum in particular, like she is one of the most selfless people I know. So she puts everyone ahead of her. So then I definitely picked up that trait. And then you realize as you get older, you go, oh, well, why do I feel shitty about this now? Yeah. And then it's just recognizing that. So for me, it was like writing it down, journaling on it, and why I was always catching myself doing this. And then the penny drop moment. Okay, there you go. That's the people pleaser in you. Yeah. Why am I feeling exhausted when I do certain things? So it's awareness of situations, but that's growth, and we all got stuff like that we need to address. And I think if you want to move forward in life, in business, and especially as ourselves working for ourselves, you've got to put boundaries in place. Yep. Because you're doing a lot of work for other people. But if you're not recognizing that in yourself, or working on yourself, or protecting your energy, as they say, then you're never really going to move forward. Yeah,
you know what? That's one thing I think I'm pretty good at now is making sure that I do prioritize myself and protecting my energy. Like even because we was meant to do this podcast a few weeks ago, and my period was the worst period I've had in a long time. Like I get really bad fatigue beforehand, but that week it was just like I was knocked out. And part of me was like, you can just get on with it and push through it. The other part of me was like, Laura, you really need to just honor yourself and give yourself what you need right now. And Ollie will understand. It's not the end of the world. It will be okay. And if he doesn't understand, well, fuck him.
Tough shit.
Yeah. So I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that.
Good.
It was uncomfortable, and it still is. Like, I still felt, when I went to message you, I could see the people pleaser in me coming out. I was like, I need to over-explain every single detail.
Nah.
And I was like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
I think my response was like, yeah, no, I can't feel your pain because I've never had a period, but yeah, all good, let's reschedule it. Like,
literally.
but that anxiety that people get from that, though, is like too much for some people, you know, but it would have been too much at one stage.
Yeah.
But then it's like, again, it's like that awareness to the situation.
Yeah, and also, I really try to mimic healthy boundaries because I want other people to be able to do the same to me.
Yeah.
So if you were like, do you know what, Laura, I'm low on energy today, like I really just need to reschedule. Absolutely, I want you to have the space where you can do that, because the last thing I want is anyone to do something that they don't want to do. So I think it's important, if you can do that yourself, then you give other people permission to do the same back.
It's interesting you say that. I've had an older male and an older female. One of the key focuses was in saying no to things. And it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And then we got to the stage where we were just coming to the end of the, you know, the program they were on. And I said something to them, oh, you know, you've got this do, or no, not this do, would you like to do this? And he's like, no, I'm going to practice what I preach now and I'm going to say no to you. And I was like, well done, you passed. You know what I mean? But it was a moment where I couldn't argue and be like, mate, come on, or the lady, you need to. But it was like, no, you've ticked every box. Like, that's valid. So it was like a bit of a happy moment for me. But yeah, no is a key element to so many people, isn't it? But it's interesting. All of this is interesting, and I think it's a new way of thinking too. You know, like you very much are looking at what you're doing and where you're at now. It's a very holistic approach to everything, innit?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you know I look at like the coaching industry, and there's so many like body transformation coaches. All these quick fixes. Yeah. And they never last.
No.
But the reason they sell and they do really well is because it's exciting to think, oh my God, I can get this amazing result really quickly. But I didn't get my results really quickly in the gym and outside of the gym. You know, I've been going to the gym for 10 years. I've been weight training for 10 years. Some people might look at me and think, Laura, you should probably have some more muscle if you've been training for 10 years.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, no, I'm enjoying life. I've got good balance. I eat how much I want to eat. My life's not dictated and controlled by food. And then holistically, if you have in order to have a healthy body, and I mean like a truly healthy body, you actually have to have a healthy mind. Yeah. Because I know before I probably looked healthy on the outside because I was in a slim body, you know, but I wasn't fit. I couldn't run 5K. I'm living off of takeaways, McDonald's. I weren't meditating. I was in this destructive mode. I was drinking, doing drugs, out partying, all of this crazy stuff. So I wasn't healthy, but I was going to the gym. I was practicing those good habits. But when I went through the termination of the baby and I really sort of assessed what was important, and the thing that got me through that, it was fitness. Yeah. It gave me a purpose to wake up. Yeah. Gave me a reason to get out the house because I didn't have a job. I had no money, so I couldn't go and do anything. I didn't see people. I eventually got into my own flat, which now, but obviously I live on my own, so I wouldn't see people. I wouldn't need to get dressed. I wouldn't need to eat. I wouldn't need to sleep. So fitness was the anchor for me that gave me a reason to start doing those things. And the more I done them, you know, I got myself off of the drugs. I got myself so I was addicted to benzocaine.
What's benzocaine? Sorry,
like a diazepam.
Okay, yeah, diazepams.
Yeah.
They make you real drowsy.
Yeah. So I was prescribed them from my doctor, and I was on sleeping pills and all sorts. And I was just in so much pain. I just couldn't bear any of it. So I got given diazepams, and I got given sleeping pills. And then before you know it, I was like, this shit's good.
You hooked to the shit.
Yeah, I was like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. So for a good year, I was addicted to like diazepams, and I was taking stupid amounts, and I was drinking on it.
Shit.
Yeah.
It's like a massive recipe, that is, for disaster, drinking diazepams.
I remember there was one occasion, I was like, fuck, I think I need to go to hospital. I was like, I've done so much diazepam. I've drank so much wine.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that was a wake-up call. I was like, shit, I can't do this. And then I remember I was talking to my therapist about wanting to stop it for a while. And then one day, I had a session with her. I was like, I haven't drank for 2 weeks. Like, what? I was like, yeah. I don't know, it's just clicked. I just haven't drank for 2 weeks. Obviously, coming off of the benzos was different. You can't just suddenly go cold turkey because you get awful withdrawal symptoms. So I needed to like withdraw myself off of those. Weaned myself off of my antidepressants as well. So I think I was only on those for around a year in the end. Wow. I've just found all the medication numbed me to everything. Yeah. I didn't feel anything, the good or the bad. So I weaned myself off of everything. And then I started to do more of this inward work, which was the journaling.
Yeah, nice.
The meditation, the going to sound baths, the taking up hobbies, which I wouldn't have done before. And also a big thing for me was being creative. Yeah. Again, I don't have memories in childhood, but I'm sure if we was to track something back down to childhood, I probably wasn't able to express myself creatively because I didn't dance, I didn't sing, I couldn't draw, I didn't do anything that required creativity. I felt so uncomfortable. I remember my therapist, one of our first sessions, asked me to draw my family. I refused.
Really?
She was like, it can be stick people. I was like, nope. And I point blank refused. Yeah, wow. I was so anxious about actually having to draw something.
Just the thought of trying to draw?
Yeah,
or the...
yeah, just, no,
wow.
So uncomfortable, cannot do that.
That's a bit like me when I write. When someone says, write something down, I'm left-handed, my writing is fucking atrocious. Every time I'm feeling like burning eyes on the back of my head when I write, but I just... You own it, but that's probably, sorry to interrupt your story, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, that's like me when I write.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, right? But so a big part of that was then going to art classes, was getting colouring books for at home, was making a dream board, was doing all of these things that required me to be creative. And I tried hard. Like, I really tried, okay? Like, I hated these situations I was putting myself in, but I didn't stop because I knew if I didn't stop, I would stay exactly where I was, and that was terrifying. And the only way to move through it is to literally, like, move through it, face it head on, deal with the challenging situations. Because once you've gone through it once, you're like, I can do this again. Yeah. You've built the confidence, the resilience. You've shown yourself, actually, I am the person that can do hard things. I can push through this. But I started going to sound baths probably around 18 months ago, maybe a bit longer now. And the sound baths that I go to are like shamanic journeys, and not all of them, but some of them. So a lot of it to begin with is about grounding yourself and getting you in your body. So you'll see people like shaking like this, maybe just like moving, dancing, expressing themselves before you go into the meditation, because you really just want to be in your body for that meditation. I would sit awkwardly in that room and watch everyone else do it, and I would just sit there. And I'd be like, I'm just waiting for the meditation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going probably over a year. I would just sit and not move. Then at the end of it, everyone would be able to like pick a rattle or a drum or some instruments or something like that to play with. And we'd just have like some free play with instruments. Some of the people that have beautiful voices, so they would sing. Beautiful experience. Now I can fully immerse myself and enjoy it. Yeah. Back then, I would sit in silence and I would be so uncomfortable. But I kept going every week. Because
someone inside you was telling you to...
Yeah. I kept going and I kept looking at these people thinking, fuck, I want to be free like you.
Was it a fear of looking silly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I can't do that. Yeah. I'm not the sort of person to dance, to play, let loose. That's not me. I'm uptight.
Uptight. And then if the only time we've ever been like that is having a drink in our hand, and
exactly,
it's okay now. We're all a bit drunk. It's like,
And this is the joke me and my therapist have. Oh, you're not drunk or anything then, Laura?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
But that's interesting, isn't it? But it's so true. Like I remember, like for instance, the first ever time I think I picked my phone up and started talking to the phone, or walking down the street talking. You know, it's that fear of looking stupid. But the reality was I had to, and a lot of us, we have to get over ourselves. Yeah. Like legit is like get over yourself. Yeah. Because everyone, 90% of the time, so many people are caught up in their own thoughts, their own whatever they're doing, that they're not really that fussed about you. 10% is like, oh, what's he doing? But then they get over it. It's like a fish.
But that's the thing. And then I look at these women and these people that are in the events that I'm going to, and I'm inspired by them. I'm like, I wish I didn't give a shit like you. I wish I had the confidence just to move my body like you. So if they are looking at you, they're probably looking at you for good reasons.
Yeah.
Like I'm inspired.
They're supporting you.
Yeah.
Like realistically, they're looking at you going, I just wish you'd come dance with us or shake with us, right?
Yeah.
It's good to have these women's spaces though. Like I think there's so much now on men's mental health a lot. And I just think women are, it's interesting me, right? Because I think women are very more like talkative to do these things, but maybe it's just because I'm a male, but I see more of these mental health spaces or, you know, men's groups, but I'm like, where's the women's groups then? But maybe they are just not looking.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are. That I feel like they're hidden because for so long I was like, where do I find these?
So where did you find this sound?
So this was from a friend of a friend. I started to go get Reiki done, and she told me about these sound baths. So I went along with her, and then I found that one, and then I started to get in with like the community. And I'm a very spiritual person, so I started to get in with like all of these spiritual groups and these connections. And then you just find them. Yeah. They're not like, you can't, I don't really know what you would type in Google to go and find them, because they're often just things that are like word of mouth. So I just started hearing these things from attending one, then someone else mentioning something else. And now my Facebook algorithm's very good at recognizing what groups I like.
It starts seeing you liking this or you're talking about this. I'm sure the phones pick up what you're talking about too.
100%.
Are you, have you done any like psychedelics or anything?
So I've microdosed on mushrooms. Not had a full ceremonial trip, but I am going to soon.
Cool.
I've just been trying to find like the right facilitator for it, because back in the day I would have gone to raves, I would have done pills, Mandy, all sorts, without any intention behind it. You know, the sole purpose was just to get pretty fucked up at a rave and have a great time. And don't get me wrong, I had amazing times at those raves. Some of my best memories I've made. Yeah. But I actually respect the plant medicine now and appreciate what it does, and I see the profound effects it has on people. So I microdosed. I think I probably got my dose a little bit high, because when I microdosed, I was like, shit, Laura, you can't go out in public. My brain was going 100 miles an hour, and I felt like I couldn't get my words out as quick as what my brain was making sentences. So I got a little bit paranoid with that. But creativity, productivity, my focus, flow state changed. Yeah. Was really amazing. Have you?
Yeah, I've done bits and bobs. I'm not saying I know some people who are flat out, but I've done mushrooms before, and I remember I did it through bacon. Alex passed them on to me. It was like these chocolate mushrooms, and it was like on the packet, it was like 1 to 3 chocolates was microdose, 3 to 5 was trip, a therapeutic, and then anything onto that you're tripping balls.
How did you do?
I think I did like just on the cusp of tripping balls and therapeutic, but I remember doing it, and I did it, and I thought, I've taken these chocolates now. I'll just go for a little walk, let my digestive system break in, and I wasn't too bothered.
Was you on your own?
Yeah. I did it on my own. So, and then I did the walk, and I remember walking back home, and as I was walking to my building, there was this car parked up, and this guy come out, and he must have been jogging, but he had his hands like this. He was running like this, like Phoebe off Friends, and I was like, "Oh, am I tripping yet? Is it kicked in?" And I remember my legs. It felt like my legs just went a little bit like weakish, and then I went upstairs, went into my room, and I just lied on my bed. And for me, it was more about for clarity on business. I wanted a bit more clarity on. I had so many visions on my coaching, my mindset, that with the podcast, and I was like, where am I going next? Where's the next step? How is this going to align? And it literally like just kind of helped me figure out my journey, my path with work, and give me more clarity. And I think everyone should do it, you know.
Yeah.
I think everyone should do it, because it's the only reason why people don't want to do it, because it's been outlined to everyone that like you might not return.
No, it's fine.
You might lose yourself. But I'm like, hang on, you'll take coke off a dealer you don't know has been probably cut so many times. Yeah. You'll take MDMA, or you'll take speed from a random guy in the toilet, but it's something that comes from the ground you won't take. And without going too much into it, I had a great trip. Woke up the next day like nothing happened, and I was like, okay. And I just wrote down all my vision, mapped it down, and I was like, okay, this works well for me.
But that's why, for me, I want to have someone to facilitate it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, because I don't have memories of childhood. And there have been little T's, big T's, you know, throughout my life.
So just in case something happens,
Yeah, I want to feel just supported and safe and comfortable in that environment. But I also think, like, if something comes up that is unpleasant, it's necessary for you to move forward, because that's what your subconscious mind is teaching you that you need to deal with. Like, that's your block. And until you deal with your blocks, you're not going to progress forward. And I was speaking to my therapist about this yesterday, because I've realised how important my inner child healing is. And that's now my priority going forward, my inner child. And in order for us to be in alignment, because I listened to a woman called Esther Hicks, or Abraham Hicks, not sure if you're familiar. She's a spiritual teacher, and she always talks about, I'm reading one of her books called The Vortex. She always talks about when you are in alignment, no one else can bother you. So let's say your family get on your nerves, okay, and you find them really overwhelming and stressful. If you are in alignment, they will not get on your nerves.
Yeah.
Your partner will not irritate you. You will always just see the good without it being toxic positivity and toxic good. So the more I've gone on this path, I'm like, right, I'm understanding more what it means to actually be in alignment. And in order to be in alignment with yourself, you need to address the dark. You know, we all have those shadow aspects of ourselves. We don't like it. We're all ashamed of it. We don't want everyone.
Shadow.
Yeah, like I call one of my archetypes is the bitch. So on Sunday, after I come back from the retreat, I was doing my food shopping, and I felt really low, drained on energy. A lot of stuff was brought up for me over the weekend. I was like, for fuck's sake, why is this fucking person left their trolley right in the middle on a Sunday in the aisle? And I thought, whoa, Laura, you don't think like that. That was my bitch coming out.
Yeah, exhausted, probably maybe asleep deprived, haven't eaten normal. Like so many things happen, so it's like,
yeah. But when you can be aware of your dark sides and you can embrace it, and you know, and all of these other archetypes that we have, you can move forward with yourself and show yourself compassion, because it would have been easy for me to have just gone in that downward spiral of negative thoughts. But because I practice self-awareness and I know what it feels like to feel really good all the time, I knew that Sunday was a bad day for me. I weren't feeling my best self. So I could step back and be like, okay, who is, out of all of my archetypes, who's running the show today?
Yeah, which one's on today then?
Yeah. But like you have them for all sorts of things. And this is a relatively new concept that I'm sort of working with. So I'm not that well versed in archetypes, but I just found that really interesting to look back.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't. I just know sometimes I need to sleep, or I need some food, or I need to check out for a moment, or like, I'm burning both ends of the candle here a little bit, or if I think we all it's just labeling it more to each ourselves understanding on situations. I'm very big on the self-reflection, but at the same time, right, what I've realized is the more I go into the past for too long, the more you feel disempowered as well. You might lose confidence, you might feel less of yourself. So I'm very big on aware of it, checking in on times and addressing it on times when I need to, but I don't stay there for too long. Because for me, it's like, I got shit to get done. Ollie's got so much more potential to go. So if I keep looking in the past, my neck's going to fucking hurt. And I'm going to be like constantly looking in the past. So I'm like, no, I've got so much to offer still. Like, there's so much goodness in me. There's the energy that I can provide for myself, for others, for what I do. I got to make sure that that's good too. But I'm very big on all of these. Everything you're talking about, I think, is perfect. And I think everyone needs to address this shit as such, you know? But it's a cool space to be in. And it's really funny, where you find yourself in the sports industry, essentially, right? As a coach. But it's like, you've not pigeonholed yourself a coach. Does that make sense? Because you've opened up so many doors for yourself. You're the holistic, you're the inner child. You've got amazing women's groups. You know what I mean? You're more than just hey, here's your program. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I don't even really know what category I'd put myself in, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, someone said to me, what is the title of what you do? I was like, fuck. mentor, mindset coach, this, that. They ever be like, realistically, it's addressing your shit and getting stuff in order, getting your action going. But yeah, I think that sometimes a lot of coaches, like the guy you just spoke to earlier, Callum, I'm like, man,
interesting guy.
Yeah, he's a top fella. He's a really good fella. But that's a massive thing as well, is your environment. My environment plays a massive effect on where I'm going next, my next move. If I'm around people who are not leveling up or not wanting to talk about creative things, then I'm not going to be leveling up. I'm going to be gossiping. And that's a key element too, I find, is if you ever find yourself in little circles, or you probably definitely did at one stage, as I definitely have, where you go, oh, we're gossiping about someone right now. And you think at the time, oh, this feels good. Then you leave the conversation, you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, that's not cool, or that's not cool, or like, that's the awareness to go that I need to check out of those conversations. I need to, not saying that you can't hang out with those people, but maybe standing up for what you believe in, standing what's not right. You know?
Well, this is something I speak about quite often, because once you go down this journey of self-development and healing and bettering yourself, it can get really lonely.
Yeah.
Because we're in the minority right now that actually think like us, that do the things like us, that take the risks, that invest in themselves, and have the conversations that we have. And I find it difficult to integrate with people that don't have conversations like this, which is why I think I spend most of my time on my own.
Yeah.
But it can be really lonely. And that's why I think it's so important that you do find your community. Like, I found my communities for myself. And that's why I coach the way I do coach. It's because you need a community to heal. And have you ever read the book, The Body Keeps the Score?
The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Amazing book all about trauma and how trauma is stored in our body. There's a paragraph in there where the woman this wrote a letter to her therapist. If I remember correctly, she'd either had sexual abuse or lost a baby or something like that. And she said, I have found, through Pilates, I have found my deepest healing because I've strengthened my core and I'm surrounded by other women.
Wow.
And I was like, that just hit me, because that is what fitness is to me. It's like, I went through all of that pain of losing my baby, being disconnected to my body, to then actually being like, I know I didn't birth my baby. She's with me every single day. But fitness, but losing the baby then made me, and being pregnant, like knowing I was pregnant, feeling all of the symptoms of pregnancy really made me think, wow, isn't our body incredible?
Oh, yeah.
Like what it actually can do. It can grow a human. It actually weirds me out thinking we can grow a human.
Yeah.
And then we can produce food to keep that human alive.
Makes you think, right?
Yeah, insane, absolutely insane. So I have all of this like newfound appreciation for my body. Then going through the termination, I needed to be strong. I needed to build myself up again. And fitness was a thing that made me feel strong. And I found healing by connecting with other women in circles and other groups. And I was like, I need to integrate this.
Yeah.
My coaching needs to have all of these components.
There's your message.
Yeah. So that's what we've created, a community where women can come together exactly as they are and heal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
How, for people out there, right, obviously, you have a big following, you build a great brand. Like for someone out there that was wanting to build a brand, like what are the key components or things you look for in building your brand, essentially? Like any little gems you can pass on to someone?
I would say just being authentic and true to yourself. The more authentic you are, the more that you will attract the right type of people, because even this is something that I'm battling with now, and I said this to you earlier about trying to integrate all of these parts of myself where I've gone through healing for so long, and then it's like the Laura you see today is the Laura that was underneath all of that stuff always, but just never got the chance to come out. So it can be difficult to integrate. But the more I'm speaking my truth, the more I'm connecting on such a deeper level with the women that I work with. Would I be sat here having this conversation with you if we wasn't connected by a mutual friend? Or, I think it might have even been last year at the start of the year when we first sort of like got introduced to each other. So I think the more authentic you can be, the more you can own yourself and be brave enough to say, actually, this is what I stand for. These are my values.
Beautiful.
The more you just create a brand that feels good, not forced, because you don't want to fake something. And for me, I think this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's got to be in line with my integrity. And also getting clear on your values. Like if you don't know what your values are, you don't know where you're going in life.
Yeah, you need your own values for sure. If you don't have that, you're going to be walked over by many people.
Yeah. What would you add to that?
So
To building a brand, because obviously
you're
doing a great job as well.
Well, thank you. I think just following people who are in line with you as well. I think removing your ego and who inspires you. You know, see what their niches are, but more find your own niche, like you're talking about, and just getting over myself. You got to get over yourself. As soon as you can get over yourself and stop playing the card of, I can't do this because of so and so. I can't do this because I'm busy all the time. I can't do this because I haven't got the time, or I can't do it because of finances. It's like bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You can do this. You've got a phone. You started there. Video yourself. Hey, my name is Ollie. I'm a mindset coach. I work with this type of people. If you are interested, reach out. That's the first step. Next thing, then take. I don't know. That's the start, right?
Yeah.
We really have to simplify, because I think this is a form of anxiety in itself, because we overcomplicate it to the stage it overwhelms us. So if we can remove the overcomplication and just take that first step, and then look at the next step instead of looking 50 steps ahead and going, too hard basket, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you remind me of a couple of my clients, actually. So I'm big on pushing them for doing things that feeds their soul. So one of them in particular, she's been with me for 18 months, pretty much from the beginning now, and suffered quite badly with her mental health. Didn't do much self-care, didn't do anything that really brought her fun and excitement. And I was like, what do you love doing, Ashley? Like, what do you love doing? What excites you? What's fun for you? She's like, well, I'm actually really good at crafts, and I love doing crafts and making signs. And, she showed me some of these. She's from America, so she showed me like a sign that she made for the fall and the seasons. And I was like, okay, so can we put an hour aside a week to do this?
Yeah.
She was like, yeah. And the compounding effect of just doing something that feels good. If anything, this is like the biggest message I want people to take away from this episode, is like, when you follow that feel good feeling, you don't know where it's going to lead you.
Yeah.
So Ashley was doing these designs, doing these crafts. Then people started to notice what she was doing. She's now got a business selling her crafts.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And it just started from doing something for the pure enjoyment of doing it.
Yeah.
And now it's a business of hers, and she's got long-term plans of how she's going to grow that.
But I'm grateful for you coming up.
No, thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Don't just talk it, walk it. Walk is only. Don't just talk it, walk it.